Alright, it's Sunday night. And why is this webcam doing this to me? How's that? That's a bit better. I just I'm going to at the start of the stream make a Halloween cocktail video, and I just realized I should wear. I've got a vaguely Halloweeny shirt. It's just here. Actually, I was going to wear the skeleton hand one, but I'm going to wear the black cat one. Hello, Heine and Musical Aviator. Prefer the colder weather to the hot weather. All right, I'm going to put on this shirt I have not worn for a while. And then I'm going to make a little video. Kind of looks like a flamboyant magician's shirt, really. All right. There we go. So that's done. Yeah, I think it's a suitable Halloween shirt. All right, now. Got to get things. Okay, yeah, I'll do the whole way. Why not do chickens in charge? It's a thing. It's a thing we do on the stream. Actually, I just thought of something. Gonna do this. Gonna rearrange them. Yeah, that one there. Let's stick that foot in there. That's 3 chickens. Where will we stick the 4th chicken? In there, mayhap. Perhaps. There we go. 4 chickens. Oh, there you go. I like that. And I'll just change where they're facing. And this one. There you go. 4 chickens in charge. Hey Kyle, on the Facebook, how you doing? All right, I'm going to quickly, well, it'll probably take me 15-20 minutes, but Sunday night tends to be a bit slow starting. So if I do this, then maybe folks will be here by the end. Okay. Bring this camera around. Okay. Got that happening. What's that about? There you go. And GoPro. Okay, so turn the audio recorder on. The video recorder on. Okay, that's probably right. Let me have a look. Yep, that looks good to me. Yeah, we're good. Let's get going before that ice melts too much. Yeah. G'day, cocktail lovers. I thought it was time for a... That's what happens when you make a script up on the fly. G'day, cocktail lovers. I thought it was time to have a Halloween cocktail, and I'm going to go with. Fuck shit. G'day, cocktail lovers. I thought it was time to make a Halloween cocktail. And for me, Halloween cocktails, they're Halloween if it comes into a couple of things. If it's got a spooky name, or if it somehow is like red, like blood, or black and dark and mysterious. And this one I'm going to make has two of those elements in it. It is a variation on an old fashioned that is gin based. If you've never tried a gin old fashioned, I thoroughly recommend you do. Just get a really good gin with a nice flavor and try that as the base spirit in an old fashioned. But I am going to make this very Halloweeny, blood red. I will actually be using this bloody Shiraz gin from the Four Pillars distillery that involves Shiraz grapes in the whole distillation process, but also to give it a bit more of a recognizable old-fashioned flavor. I'm going to use this whiskey barrel, it's whiskey barrel gin. Sorry, I'll try that again. To give it some flavors a bit more like a traditional old-fashioned, I'm also going to use this whiskey barrel-aged gin from the Threefold Distillery. This is aged for about 8 months in an Australian whiskey barrel. Well, ex-whiskey. There was no whiskey in it when they did it. Who knows? Maybe there was a bit in there. But so it's got a little bit of color, but not a lot. It's not going to take away from the red, but it's going to add some interesting taste, I think. And to keep things going red, I've got sugar syrup. You don't have to have a red sugar syrup. This is a fruit-based sugar syrup, which is why it's red. Just so long as you don't have like a dark sugar syrup that might affect it. And on the bitters side, I'm going to do a dash of orange bitters and a dash of Peychaud's bitters. So we should get a good bloody red old-fashioned out of this. Here's how we're making it. In a mixing glass, we put in a mixing glass, we're putting 1 ounce or 30 mils of the bloody Shiraz gin, then 1 ounce or 30 mils of the barrel-aged gin. Then I'm just doing around 1/4 ounce, 7.5 mils of sugar syrup, and 1 dash of orange bitters, and 1 dash of Peychaud's bitters. Add ice to the glass, stir that for 20 to 25 seconds to chill and dilute the drink. And then I'm straining it into a rocks glass. Over my crystal clear Skull Ice because it's Halloween. Okay, so I'll stop that. I'll stop this and I have to do the other bit. Really, suddenly 8 people there. Hello, people. Oops, no, that's not what I want. Okay, so bring this down there. Okay, mixing glass. Mixing glass. Make sure I have that set up properly. That looks fine. Fuck it. Right. Let's get this going on. And the bitters. Okay, now we should have a video. No, I'm just going to do. No, that's good. Okay. I'm gonna cheat. Okay. I'm a dirty cheater. Okay, let's put some ice in that glass. Ice, ice, baby. All right. Getting this happening. Okay, stir, stir, stir. Ooh, that tastes good. All right, that's that done. Now just a little bit more talkies. And I'll sit down and do talkies with the stream. Okay, so this back on. And this back on. And let's go. And I think a maraschino cherry dripping juices is an appropriate garnish to go with this. I did get a good tip from Uncle Pete, from Uncle Pete's Cocktail Shop, of how to keep a molded ice like that in place in the glass. Just rinse your glass out with water, sit the ice in there, and then put that back in the freezer for a while, and that'll freeze the ice in place. Mind you, having it sit for a while under studio lights melts it free again, but I'm quite happy with the look of this one. The skull, you can still see it in the red drink, and taste-wise, oh, that's good. This was actually a little experiment of mine. I've never done that split with the Bloody Shiraz and the aged gin. I was about to say aged whiskey barrel aged gin. Never had them before. I thought they'd go really well together. They do. Fun, simple Halloween drink, getting in the spirit, being blood red. So if you have that, of course, this is a very specific gin, but I do notice a lot of gin producers around the world producing gins where there are grapes in the process, so you do get a red gin. There's also cherry gins and various other ones, the different fruity slow gins. Hell, use red food coloring if you want. It's all just for fun. So I hope you're enjoying yourself and taking care with wherever you are. And have a spooky Halloween. I'm going to enjoy this because it's quite tasty. Hope to see you again soon, but I will say bye for now. Cheers. That will do. I feel like I was rambling, but that's just how I am sometimes. A rambling man. I think that's acceptable. Okay. Let's put this out of the way. This out of the way. bring my chair back. I was going to change out of this shirt too. Okay, so chickens go over there. Hey, Drake. Yeah, the chickens were in charge while I was doing the video. I am a tease, or was that? Yeah, well, I'm here now. I might get called away. It's a thing. Speaking of tease, I'm going to strip off, but off camera. You'll have to use your imagination. Just changing shirts. I literally just had this one on for the purpose of the video. I'm going to hang it up again and put on the shirt that I've had on all day. Oh, so many bits of tease on the angry stream. But, life's like that. That's all I can say. Okay, and put this shirt back on. And then I will be settled down. Maybe I moved the chickens too soon. Who knows? But that's the way. I like it. When you take me by the hand. Where are we? We are connected, and I'm back. Hey, Dr. Jones, you ramble. You're not even on cam. I'm quite rambly. Yes, that was Chicken Cerberus who controls things when I'm otherwise occupied. I like all my shirts. That cat one is quite good. Oh, Alexander, sorry, just the chicken scared you with the voice. That's okay. No, not even man boobs. It's unwise to have man boobs on YouTube. But I'm enjoying my blood red old fashioned. Oh, that is actually really fucking yummy. Do chickens eat cake? I'm going to say yes. Chickens are fairly voracious, actually. It's also funny when people don't realize chickens are carnivores. But they will eat rodents, and they'll definitely eat meat if you feed them sort of bite-sized meat. Classy. Drinking lemonade from a glass bottle. Very, very classy. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Might have been too much bitters, actually, but that's okay. I don't mind that. Yeah, no. There's probably more than one bit of video of it, but I've seen this freaky video online. It's like a cat stalking a mouse in a chicken yard, and it's like the cat's toying with it as cats will with mice. And a chicken just runs in and yoink, eats the mouse as well. Oh, okay. Sorry, you missed me making it, Dr. Jones. Okay, so this is a gin, old-fashioned, and it's a red gin, basically. And I also used red bitters. But it's this gin from the Four Pillars Distillery. It's called Bloody Shiraz Gin. I also use red bitters. So it's a bit of a different old-fashioned, and it's blood red. Oh, yeah, Strictly Sega. It was at Junipalooza with Kirsten, as it turns out. Kirsten got me a ticket for it. Got to meet Steve the bartender, YouTube cocktail royalty. He's such a nice guy, though. But I knew that before I met him. Yeah. So it's like 4 hours of sampling gins, being restrained. I guess I was as drunk as I would like to be while I'm walking around somewhere. Not as drunk as I get on some streams, more drunk than I get on most streams. But I wasn't slurring my words and I wasn't stumbling and whatnot. But it was like, oh, well, yeah, no, okay, I am fucking drunk, definitely. So over 4 hours, God, how many? And it was just sips. But if you take, 40 sips, that ends up being a lot of stuff you drink. And then afterwards, like it finished at 8 and hung around for a bit talking to some of the stall holders because Kirsten knows them all. I know some of them. And then we went to a place called Catfish in Fitzroy. My cousin actually owns the place that does the food for the pub. And they specialize in the American style stuff, chili feast steaks, Philly cheese steaks, chili fees steaks. What the fuck is wrong with me? Chili fees steaks. I enjoy a chili fees steak. Slightly better is a Philly cheese steak and some deep fried curds. Actually, no, Kirsten was very much responsible when she was like you taste it, tip it out. Don't drink the whole thing. I went, okay, good call. So yeah, and then had like an old fashioned and some food there. And then went to a couple of places, Kirsten's favorite places in the city, a sort of classy cocktail bar called Whiskey and Ailment, where I had a milk clarified cocktail they had, which was yummy. And then to a dive bar that's actually just down the road. It's called Hats and Tats. And it's a sleazy dive bar. No, it's fun. And then I went home, and it was like after midnight when I got home, and I was tired and a little drunky. So, Chog, what are you making? Blue Curacao, triple sec, ice lemonade. Ooh, weekend nightcap with Angry Chicken Man. That's going to be a tasty, sweet delight. Blue Curacao, triple sec. So just be a nice blue color, and just with that really light orange flavor you get from Curacao and triple sec and lemonade. That actually sounds nice. Oh yeah, I had a really good time, Dr. Jones. Yeah. And now, well, my cousin's not actually there, so I didn't get a cousin food discount. You're like, yeah, fancy rooftops. I think there's quite a few rooftop bars around Melbourne. I don't know if I can go to them, but probably good places for New Year's Eve if you want to watch the fireworks. But I think I'm just gonna stay home on New Year's Eve because I don't fucking like crowds. Make me a bit of a killjoy. So yeah, me being me, but not necessarily because anything could happen between now and New Year's. I mean, I'm probably going to do a stream on New Year's Eve just because I don't want to go out because I'm old and grumpy. Kyle, I am doing well. How is the world treating you, my friend? Nice. Mrs. Chog loves seeing the chicken man. The chickens have already done their appearance for tonight. You might have missed it, but they're looking resplendent. I'm only making that one video tonight. Oof. No. Ham cider shall be avoided on New Year's Eve. Oh, a bar in Melbourne. I'm not sure. Is it Trains? Is it the place with? Oh, maybe there's two places. There's a place that has like those silver trailers that are popular in America, and it's accommodation. You can say there is a bar and stuff, but you can actually rent one of the trailers and stay there. It's stupid fucking expensive, so I've never done it. Ooh, Kyle did South by Southwest Sydney. So much goss. I feel like you want to share some goss. So, Chog, New Year's Eve, tough for yourself, people in the circle. Make it group therapy. Nice. That's what you do. That's what you do. Just do something positive. And hello, Megaleech. Harry, I'm old and grumpy. You're young and angsty. Good morning to you. I feel like that's a balance. That's a good balance. I like that. I don't know if you can still see. Oh yeah, I feel like that's showing up. You can see that was a skull. The ice is starting to melt, so it's losing definition. But I feel like you can still see that was a skull. That's it, Mega Leech, what I was talking about. The Silver Bullet Airstream RVs. They have them on a rooftop, and it's stupid expensive to stay in them. I'll tell you what, Kyle, if you want to share Goss, I'll share a link with you. I just have to do it in multiple steps because Facebook is fucking weird. I got to actually go to Facebook and wait for it to open. Okay. Put that in Facebook. All right. A shrunken Beetlejuice head. There you go. Yeah, it's funny. It keeps some of the characteristics of the skull, but loses definition quite quickly. But yeah, it's kind of fun to make little skull ice. And now I know how to do it and make it clear. So it's that much more impressive. Anyway, now I'm also going to try. This is a clarified cocktail I made. I haven't tasted it yet. But here's Kyle. Hello.
Hello.
Oh, so what's been happening?
Nothing. No, I'm kidding. Just, lots of stuff has been happening actually, which has been really great. But but yeah, South by was really good and yet very interesting.
Very what? Sorry?
It was really good, but it was very interesting. Apologies. I've got this weird, it looks like I'm in a cult right now because I got so many pimples on the top of my forehead. So just letting people know, I'm not in a cult. It's just that I have pimples on my head, which I'm trying to get rid of.
Sure, I like this. Drake, you're trying to get me to be really tricky there. Freeze a tiny jelly brain. I absolutely could. I think the weight of the jelly. Well, actually, I don't know where the brain. Now you've said that, I need to go out and find a jelly edible brain and stick it in the mold and see what happens. Because I don't know if it's going to sink, so it would be touching the top of the skull, or if it would float, so it would come. I don't know. Now I want to do it. I just need to find things. Strictly Sega, what did you find a pic of?
But yeah, no. So South by was really interesting. Andrew, it was really good. I think for a first year, it was very well put together to some degree, while also having a lot of people that would have come, but because of the writers and the actors strike, it was very hard to find everyone to come.
Yeah, of course.
But it was good. Everything was a bit strange. I think everything was kind of weirdly placed in the city.
Okay.
But
yeah, and I heard it was super expensive too.
Yes. So the badges were very expensive, crazily expensive. And basically it was the same idea of South by Southwest in Austin. So you buy a pass and if you get a platinum pass, you get primary access to any of the tracks, including the conference. And then if you got an industry badge, which was $1,200, you got primary access into your specific industry and then secondary access to everything else.
It literally, those prices just make me go, who the fuck is going? It's not just, it is primarily, I could not in conscience pay that much. I couldn't afford is a figure of speech almost, but it's a poor use of money in my thing. But I look at something with prices like that and it just makes me go, place is going to be full of fuckwits with too much money and not enough sense. It just
I'll tell
does
you
not sound
exactly
at
who
all
paid
appealing to me. Sorry?
I'll tell you who paid. I'll tell you who paid for it.
Yeah.
A bunch of industry executives who are going to get it back on tax.
Well, there is that too. Yes, it would definitely be something you could claim on tax. That is very true. But again, I just feel like you'd be getting awful people.
It's funny. I didn't feel that. I didn't feel like this aura of you know this level of like I felt like there was a kind of deep level of connection with everybody. It didn't feel like there was an added level of or so I can understand what you're saying, but from being there I was kind of like, oh yeah, it's actually kind of there's a togetherness to it that like I think people felt like everyone was there for the right reasons and that there was kind of a connection with everyone.
Yeah, well, you see, that's my prejudice showing.
No, totally. I mean, yeah. It's when Andrew realizes he's all of the phobias.
Oh, yeah. I was also just going to share this thing. Strictly Sega was talking about some rooftop in Melbourne that has trains on it. And I had never heard of this, but there they are.
Shit. Trains
on a rooftop. I have no idea what that is. I'm completely unfamiliar with it. This is the first I'm hearing of it. That's not what I was thinking with the Airstreams. That is wild. I don't even know what's going on there. So, Chog, reminder you, Christmas should dig. Random business referred work invited you to a $400 a head lunch, and they paid for it. Man, I would live it up if someone was paying for me to be in a do like that. But yeah, the whole tax write-off thing is only of value to someone who has stupid amounts of money to start with, or money at their disposal anyway.
Yeah, I completely understand where that comes from. I think there was a really good, like the venues were very good, and I think that like my only concern really for the first year, and this was just because I had lots of discussions with people who worked there, and there was just not enough people who worked at the venue in terms of the operational perspective, that there were things that could have been done so much better. But I understand for first year, that there was a lot of discussion around what could change for next year. I'm really curious if they're going to send out a survey.
Yeah,
because I would be honest and say like I think there were good stuff, but I think there was also stuff that didn't help their case.
Yeah, that's fair. I also like Trains on a Rooftop. Sounds like a band, or maybe Choo Choo and the Rooftop Trains. That's good. Okay. Strict Sega says that's actually on top of a brewery in Collingwood, which shows you how rarely I go to Collingwood because I'm not familiar with it. Not at all. But now, I am actually going to look that up. I want to know there it is. So if I just look up Easy Collingwood. Cool burger joint in a converted train with retro decor. Is that what we're talking about? No, that's it. All right, look, it's got a nighttime picture that actually looks. Oh, wow! I'm clicking wrong things on my computer. It's got a. Not sure if it's pronounced easy or Eshe. That's a whole thing. Feeling uncoordinated, but okay. So this is the website. So the nighttime picture is pretty interesting. It's like a dodgy
wow.
old street. Burgers and beers, 5 stories up, and a rooftop carriage overlooking Melbourne, Sydney. Okay, what's their menu? I always want to know what the menu of these places is. Okay, yeah, burgers and hot dogs. Deep fried potatoes. I mean, you got me on board with deep fried potatoes. Beer and cider, wines. Cocktails. Now, here's where we get what a fucking snob I am. I'm going to shit on their cocktails. Pineapple daiquiri.
Those are fucking expensive
That's good.
cocktail prices, but
Sorry, what did you say?
they have really fucking expensive prices for cocktails. Oh, it's a jug.
Oh, you were looking at the jugs. Yeah. That's
Yeah, I was like,
$20 for a cocktail is quite average. So pineapple daiquiri, I take it back. That's actually good because it's plantation pineapple rum. Espresso martini, I just don't like. A Tommy's margarita is fine. A hurricane, dark rum, passion fruit liqueur. Yeah, okay. I mean, that sounds good. A Toreador with black pearl, tequila, brandy, mezcal. I mean, okay. I was jokingly saying I was going to shit all over their cocktails, but they actually sound okay. A Bloody Melbourne. Oh, it's a spiked Bloody Mary. Okay. A Mai Tai. They make it. The recipe from Bartender Magazine's Rum Bar of the Year, Jacoby's in Sydney. Okay. Plantation rum, dry curacao, bitters, and lime juice. Well, it's nice and simple because a lot of people do stupid, complicated Mai Tais and put pineapple juice and shit in it. Okay, so I was jokingly going to shit all over their cocktails, but that little list actually seems quite reasonable. And is there a map? I want to know where they are. No, so okay, so it's on Easy Street. Oh my god, it's on a street called Easy Street. Sorry, I'm just gonna go.
Is it easy to get to?
Well, that's literally. Oh, I just clicked news instead of maps. I'm such an idiot. Maps. I'm just going to look. Easy's at 3 Easy Street, Collingwood. There we go. Okay, so what is it near? It's the Eastern. I'm trying to work out how to get there. It's well, it looks like it's just in Collingwood. It depends if you want to go to Collingwood. And that's the whole thing. Oh, Dr. Abigail, you still have a gallbladder. Does that mean you're still waiting for the surgery, or have they changed approach? Ooh, pineapple juice and coffee liqueur. Okay, so I'm not a coffee drinker. So I don't particularly like coffee as a flavor, but coffee liqueur with tropical things like pineapple juice is pretty tasty. There's let me see. I made one recently. I just need to look up the list of things I've been making recently. Was it a hummingbird? Yes. Okay. So a hummingbird, the base recipe is white rum, coffee liqueur, banana liqueur, cream of coconut. I used a coffee infused whiskey that I have called Blasphemy. And that coffee element with those tropical elements actually was super yummy. They actually go together really well. So Dr. Jones, I get pineapple juice and a coffee liqueur. Definitely works. And yes, strictly Sega, you actually sit in the trains to get your food. It's kind of fascinating. So, Dr. Abigail, you're waiting for blood thinner meds to leave system. Then you're on emergency surgery list. Okay. Well, I'm really glad they're looking after you, though. Anyway. Oh, yeah, strictly Sega. I believe the writers' strike has effectively been over for weeks, but the Screen Actors Guild are still on strike, I think.
So the Writers Guild's been ratified and has been, because of course late night is back, so which means that the deal's been done. The actors strike is currently about to hit 100 days, and they're about to go back into negotiations with the studios.
Yeah, it's absolutely surreal how badly the studios miscalculated this whole thing. It's just like, oh, if we just treat these people like shit and tell them they're lucky to work in the industry, they'll just take it. And I was like, and they do to an extent. If you work in the arts or entertainment, half the time you feel like you're just super lucky to have the opportunity as well, and you put up with lots of shit. But it's just like they just pushed it too far. Oh god, Dr. Abigail, what a combo. Hideous pain, can't eat, nauseous, lightheaded. Yeah, let's stick with sleep, and someone's gonna look after you. That's a nice metaphor and a nice sentiment, Dr. Jones. Have the surgery go smooth as soft butter. Yeah, well, I'm just glad there's people looking after you, Dr. Abigail, and taking it seriously and getting you lined up, even if there's an annoying delay. Oh,
I will be really happy with my new job if the actors strike actually did get ratified quite quickly, because it would actually make my job it would make my job easier if it kept going, but it also would make my job a little less fun.
oh dear. Oh yeah. Oh Jesus, Chog. The exploitation in the music industry is horrific.
Oh yeah.
And that's the thing. I do bring it up occasionally, and it's not just music. It's not just the arts. It's actors, comedians, musicians, singers, sports people, for that matter. Of all the people who slave away at something, the percentage who ever do well is just such a tiny sort of 1% of 1% of 1% of the people who try. And there are all these other people who fucking slog their guts out and, fuck their life up either temporarily or permanently by, like, in terms of performers, it means not having a real job for 10 or 15 years when you need to be developing a career. And so eventually going into the job market in their 30s with the same amount of job experience as a 17-year-old. It's just not good. And, far worse and more challenging is like sports people who suffer horrific injuries and fucks them up for the rest of their life. And a disturbing number of people in professional sports die way too young because of the injuries and, in some cases, psychological trauma they suffered from what they were doing, and they just die way too long. It's all for our entertainment. Safa, I'm loving that as a left. Oh, I actually get why you're saying it. I thought you were just saying I was a fascist, which, okay, sure. But you got a good memory. You're talking about, as I've mentioned before, the last time, like in my 20s when I wanted to be an actor, the last serious audition I ever did, they were considering me for a couple of roles that ended up going to Russell Crowe and Ben Mendelsohn. So it's just kind of, I don't feel bad that they beat me and gave me a reality check that I should dip out. I did at first just think you were saying I could be a space fascist, which I could. Honestly, I could.
I will say, Andrew, not really talking about the sport thing, and I feel like
Yeah.
we probably talked about this a little bit as well. But I think what has happened is like the way in which the companies are dealing with the whole kind of strike thing is that
Yeah.
it's not out of the ordinary to expect that a producer isn't going to think of the bottom line because they are. I mean, I'm a producer myself. I have to think
Yeah.
about the fact that I have a budget of funding that I have to then use to create something from pre all the way to marketing and then distribution. So we have to I think we have to stop thinking that like the studios aren't thinking of the fact that they're not dealing with the bottom line because that's very important. But what I think has happened is that the studios have gone, how can we deal with this in our own, like, to help our own bottom line in terms of um, our own, corporate bottom line for our own interest. And I think that's the problem that needs to be had. So that's, I think, when the AMPTP really does become the AMPCC. It goes from being the Alliance of Motion Picture Television Producers to actually the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Companies, because they're not producers. Because the other really important value that producers have is about the value of collaboration, of mentorship, of supporting your crew. If you're not going to fucking support your crew, then what the fuck are you doing as a producer?
Yeah, and you do get some good stories about good producers as well. Also, of course, you get diabolical monsters like Harvey Weinstein. But like Robert Evans was the famous sort of 70s cocaine freak producer, but really cared about films, and so was responsible for bringing quite a lot of very good quality films to the screen. So you do get stories of good producers and committed producers and producers who realize the crew, the actors, the directors, everyone involved is an important part of the picture. But yeah, what we've seen with these studios, they're just psychopathic pieces of shit who think they should have the right to just completely steamroll people and not care about it.
No, it's awful. It's terrible. But I think that, like, I was once listening to an interview with Tim Gunn talking about his time on Project Runway, which of course was a Miramax production and had been produced with collaboration from the Weinstein Company. And they were talking about the fact that, like, literally not even just money situation, but the fact that the Weinstein Company would essentially be able to make money, and the designers, after being on the show, would not have any support or any form of ownership out of the work that they had created. They didn't have any ownership out of the stuff that they created, and they didn't have any ownership of the footage that they had created while being on the show. And so it was just crazy because Tim Gunn was like, well, I'm an educator. I want these guys to kind of take what they've, especially those people are still in design school, to be able to kind of reflect out of those specific moments. But Weinstein just kept going, no, we don't, basically bullshitting him. And I just was like, that's fucked.
Yeah. But I mean, we know he was just a monster, just a gross, creepy, perverted, exploitative monster. And he was enabled by Miramax. And in fact, okay, fine, Weinstein's gone to prison. Pretty much the entire executive board of Miramax should have been in prison for enabling his behavior, because they knew what he was doing and they spent so long trying to cover it up. And they should not have. They should have fucking had prosecution. And thanks, Dr. Abigail. Anyone could be a space fascist, but not everyone would be. And Space Australia would boot the space fascists into space drop bear nests. And you that missed this, Kyle. The other night we were having a very long conversation about Space Australia. It was very silly, and it was silly.
I mean, the big problem you're going to have with Miramax Andrew, is because of the fact that Miramax was created by Bob and Harvey, and so the issue you're going to have there is, you know, if you know, we talk about the titans of America's producing screen being the Weinstein brothers, and I think that is sort of where, you know, it's terrible, but like, and I'm so glad we are in a new dawn of, you know, of things like that. And I think that people just need to be, instead of just looking about the way in which things were before, they need to think about the way in which things are now. Oh,
Joey, that's such a good turn of phrase. This vomit isn't going to throw itself up. Okay, please take care, Dr. Abigail. Also, Safa, okay, the question is AI bad in movie making?
oh God.
That's an unanswerable question because you need to define the parameters of what you're talking about with AI.
I'm
stealing someone's work and doing computer generated stuff, that's bad. AI, like machine learning, complex digital tools are in use now and have been for a while. And you could argue, like, look, artists justifiably got incredibly upset by these, AI engines that were stealing their work to produce kind of shitty knockoffs of their work. And they're understandably upset, but it becomes a complex issue because all the stuff like, particularly the last 15, 20 years, where ordinary people have had access to quite complex software for editing, animation, film production. I think some people don't kind of realize now one person is doing what it used to take 10 or 20 people to do. And it's just basically complex. You can't answer, is AI bad? Because you need to define the parameters of what you're talking about. I'll go out on a limb. AI, how movie studios envision using it, like with fake versions of actors and whatnot, that is criminal and stupid. But they're going to try and do it. Also, probably the AI bubble's going to burst in the next year or two when people start to realize all these AI companies are more hype than substance. And while we see things like ChatGPT and the various image generators do amazing things, the back end of those, it's not magic. It's massive computer server farms that are super expensive to run. And these companies can probably never make meaningful money from it. And so it's got to be hyped for a few years while billions of dollars of investment money gets set on fire. And then we'll get to the stage where this isn't actually sustainable anyway.
I think of it in a very specific way where I completely agree with you that there is no very easy answer to the question of a filmmaker's relationship to AI. I think the first thing you've got to think of it is as a no, it is not that simple. I think the first thing you have to kind of understand is that you have to kind of put a couple of, honest facts when it comes to the table when it comes to AI. AI is driven by.
Sorry, I was just going to say, Drake's on the east coast of the US realized he stayed up till 3 a.m. He needs to sleep.
So funny.
Thanks. Also, it's a little while since Drake dropped in at the stream, but anyone who's knows old school angry Aussie YouTube, Drake actually did a bunch of artwork that I'd used at various times on the channels that was really good. Does really good work. But anyway, thanks for dropping in, Drake. Get some sleep, man.
Yeah, so I was going to say you have to kind of put a couple of facts out. And so what filmmakers and film studios and film people want to discuss is they want to look for things that are innovative, that are unique, and that are forward thinking. None of which of those things are what AI is. AI is a data-driven tool that is about analyzing what has come before to then
Yes.
push out into this sort of stuff. And what's really funny is that um it is very strange to think in that way the use of AI for scripts, because that just feels very counterintuitive to the fact that Hollywood wants to create stuff that feels very nuanced and innovative. And coming out of the Charlie Brooker talk at South by Southwest Sydney, I kind of felt like that. I was like, how can we make our stuff more innovative? Um, AI is a tool, and it's a tool to use for, you know, to support the creation of content, but it does not eliminate the creative process in these particular ways. Um, we have to understand that AI is something that can be used to, you know, because a lot of, as we talked about with the AMPTP, is that there was a lot of taking away from the fact of what people could learn. People could learn about being on sets and developing themselves and becoming the next generations of showrunners. You know, like people I'm just trying to think of like Aaron Sorkin. You know, people like Greg
Yeah.
Berlanti.
Yes. The
They
big
didn't become,
creators. Yeah.
they didn't become, you know, the big creators who would become huge showrunners out of nowhere. They had to
Yeah.
pull their teeth into these sort of things. And what is really annoying right now is that AI is essentially eliminating that and saying to the studios, we don't want to pay you to kind of facilitate the bottom line because there's this thing called AI. And I
Yeah.
think that is the problem, because
Yeah.
that is eliminating the basis for them to be able to be educated, because you can't learn everything from an educational perspective. You can't learn everything from like an educational college. You have to learn some stuff doing the actual role that you're doing.
Yeah. And it's just the fucking talentless hacks with money who are in positions to make these decisions. It's like they don't understand. Like the writers are saying, no, you have to have these writers' rooms as a development tool. And it's weird. It's because it's in the interests of the studios. You need to develop this talent so there is a next generation of talent.
Mm.
And these fuckwits with no creativity and no real intelligence, just money and privilege, go, oh, but I can use this AI to do that. You go, well, you fucking can't. Okay, it literally what you're doing stuff that will actually hurt you, and you're too stupid to see it because you just like to exert power over people, and you're too stupid to see when your actions are actually hurting you. And it's kind of like the whole streaming thing. Like Netflix was around, Netflix was its thing, and Netflix was successful. And so all these TV and movie studios went, hey, Netflix is making all this money. We want to make this money. And then they did this stupid shit where previously they'd had this model that made them a shit ton of money with, you know, TV shows and ratings and residuals and reruns and advertising. And they were just printing money, but they just had this weird idea. Netflix is making money. We want it. And they've been destroying their own business model, and then reflexively, when it was hurting their bottom line, it was just like, well, let's fuck over actors and writers and all these other. And it's like, but you're fucking yourself over. They don't even see that they are voluntarily destroying their money making machine because they got convinced by some tech bros this was a good idea. And it's kind of like streaming destroyed the music industry. And so the TV and film industry went, hey, we should do that too. And it's like, why would you do that? It just fucking eviscerated the profitability of the music industry. Why would you jump off that cliff? It's ridiculous.
But I don't actually think of it like that. And I completely agree with you, but I don't think of it like that. I don't think of the idea that it's, you know, a whole bunch of tech bros have done this. What I think has happened, especially through the actor side, is that studios have thought, we need to, and whether it's because of the fact of their own bottom lines, that is debatable, or whether it's literally the fact that like they're trying to reduce their overheads. They've thought, okay, we can do something in this way to reduce the cost cutting things of writers and actors and directors. But in that, they've just kind of thought, everyone else has gone, wait, no, but you can't do that. You can't actually do this. You know, you can't scan my likeness and then use me for whatever production you want. Because as we talked about with Aaron Sorkin and Greg Berlanti, the same thing can be said about people like Brad Pitt and George Clooney and Penelope Cruz and Blanchett. They didn't fucking become themselves over the 24-hour period. They worked their butt off. They worked their butts off. And that's the exact same thing that happens, is that we have to not look at this as a money issue. We have to look at this as almost like a developing a career out of this thing. I know I keep saying it, but Cate Blanchett said this amazing thing at the Oscars, which I sort of take into the whole filmmaking process now, where she said that the art of making film is in its level of soft diplomacy. Now, she was sort of taking that in terms of international geopolitics, in terms of bringing people into a country and supporting workforce. But I can actually say that that's probably going to work. That analogy works well in terms of like the kind of building, because once you are trained, you're going to train the next generation, and it's almost going to be a kind of a fostering down of supporting. I'm a queer producer with a disability. You know, I want to hire my own staff at some point to be able to make shows that I actually want to make, being a showrunner. I'm not going to be able to do that, but there will be a time in the next, hopefully 5 years, that I will be able to develop and create that space where I will be able to talk to Bus Stop Films and say, hey, let me bring more people on with disability that will help shape the nuanced stories, that will help develop these films and these TV series and things like that. So I think that's really good about that. But I think we need to sort of step away from the money issue right now and just think about it from a level of education and agency and reflection of one's own identity. I think that's the conversation out of AI.
Yeah, and again, I was slightly different when I was talking about streaming services to AI. They're both proved to be quite cancerous because, and I think actually Harry has got it, the conglomerates buying up the creative companies, so the people in decision-making roles have no creativity, no creative experience whatsoever. So they're making really bad financial decisions because they don't understand what's happening. They're fucking idiots. Jog reckons music industry, there were a number of factors. AI on the internet generally, but streaming, as the internet was wearing down the music industry gradually, like with file sharing and whatnot, but streaming has just made it so borderline impossible for artists to make money. Strictly Sega. Oh God, yeah. Being an actor would suck so much. The amount of work involved in trying to get anything happening. And Chog. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Old music with young people now. Again, that's streaming because there's close to zero expense in finding this stuff. So you do get young people looking at the back catalogs of established artists.
I don't know how that works. I'm always very curious about that, especially when you think about the way TikTok music works. Because the fact is, like, who owns the license that exists for that particular thing? And then who is, like, there's a big question regarding, like, clearly it's legal because they wouldn't be able to do it if they didn't. But, you know, people are thinking about this and going, well, how does the licensing work? How does the copyright work? Who gets a cut of, like, if a video does extremely well? You know, it's these big questions. I remember Swell Entertainment, I think, talking about Amanda, talking about how she was a creator on TikTok and that she did not get a shit ton of money if a video had gone viral because the creator fund was so bad on TikTok that everyone wanted to move over to YouTube because at least there was some better payment out of that than there was on TikTok. And
yeah, TikTok's pretty evil as well. Sorry, Chog, I'm not sure what you're disagreeing with. I think the destruction of creative arts is very much economic, but so I think the streaming services was bad economic decisions.
I can see what he's trying to say. I'm thinking he's trying to say that because Disney and now this massive conglomerate that, you know, it's very, you have to kind of do stuff in the Disney way. But I think it's also really important to realize that acquisitions are still acquisitions. Like, you know, like people are going to be looking at stuff. I remember because I was at this talk at South by, and it was really interesting because they were talking about the stuff that they wanted from the perspective that is that, you know, Disney actually were like, we actually really want some really intense things. We want some like murders, like crime shows and things like that. And you'd think like, what? Why would Disney want that? But it is really interesting. But I think there is like two sides to that coin. We have you know, acquisitions as well, you know, things that aren't directly picked up from the main like creative process of making stuff through Disney, but more ones that are created, that are distributed and marketed through acquisitions, that I think is really important to think about. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Also, I love this Nepo babies. Harry's talking about Nepo babies, actors related to other famous actors. And I love it. Like you will often get when the Nepo babies are trying to justify them working in the industry because of their parents. And they go like, all that did was like, you know, open a door. I got where I am through hard work. And they did. If you're the child of a famous actor, but you're shit, you're not going to get very far. But they say all that did was open the door, and it's like, motherfucker, the door is 90% of the problem. So people are banging on the door and not getting in. So you saying the door got opened for me as if that's no big thing, that's fucking huge.
I mean, I love when Alison Williams talks about it on Watch What Happens Live. She talks about the fact that like, and it actually had a very large, really interesting discussion because it felt like you were hearing someone go, I understand my sense of privilege in this particular way, and I can't say anything that will not justify that level of privilege that I get, but I am here, and if you don't like it, don't watch my movie.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's become a bit of a joke to talk about Nepo babies. If someone's good, they're good. Probably,
Yeah.
as I said, the only time I will get annoyed is when someone says, oh, my famous parents, I didn't get where I am because of my famous parents. That just got me through the door. I got where I am through, you know, hard work, talent. And yeah, because the Nepo babies that don't have talent and don't work hard don't really get anywhere. But I'll just come back to having had these contacts your entire life is such a brain-bending advantage over 99.99% of people. To pretend that's not huge is ridiculous.
I remember once this year, there was something that happened at a film festival. And I'm not going to mention the film, but anyone who looks at it through will figure out what it was, because it was a film that did extremely well and went to many festivals. And the director's parent is an incredibly, actually one of the most well-known directors who actually turned out to EP their film. So, and somebody had asked this question in a Q&A, and I just went, oh my God. It was so awkward. I felt like the whole of the energy was just being swept out of the room, and it was so awkward. But I think you're right. I think it's just really important to kind of have that level of, when you're dealing with this sort of stuff, it's not easy. And not just
Yeah.
even talking about actors, but like directors, writers, producers, that door, if you've got to work at that door, it's there. And some people will already have the key, and some people will just have a SWAT team that can just bang the door.
Yeah, but this also just made me think of Dan Harmon, famous for Community and Rick and Morty, because he was from outside the system. He had no connections and he wasn't rich. He was working class, and he worked really hard to get in. And he had a whole challenge with understanding where both people on his staff and people outside of his staff were telling him how hard things were for women, ethnic minorities, and whatnot. And it was a good idea to take steps to increase opportunities for people who are traditionally disadvantaged. And for a while, he just kind of lost it and like, well, fuck you. I didn't have any advantages. I wasn't connected to anyone. I was poor. I worked really hard to get where I am. And he did. And it took him. And there was a very interesting podcast he did a couple of years ago with one of the Rick and Morty writers. She's an Asian American. The podcast was called Whiting Wongs. So they're being dodgy with that. But it was basically him learning, oh, yeah, even though I did work really hard and I didn't have any advantages, I am a cishet white male, and that automatically gives me advantages over anyone who's not one of those things. And he was actually pretty good at coming to terms with, even though no one gave me any breaks, I just inherently was better off and more favored because I'm a cishet white man. And he resisted that for the longest time because he was angry at the idea that he didn't work really hard, that he had any advantage, because he's like, fuck you, I saw people with advantage. I saw people with connections. I saw people with money. That's not me. Don't tell me I had advantage. But he was actually able to, I guess, listen and learn, which was very interesting. So that's the whole thing.
But I think that that's true, Bud. And I think even if you are somebody who is in a minority community, you're not going to be in every other minority community. And it takes time for you to listen and encourage and develop an awareness towards what is going on.
Yeah. And again, because we all have our own struggles. I mean, play the world's smallest violin, but rich white people have issues and struggles and travails as well. But it can be really difficult when you have actual, like, genuine struggles and hardships and barriers to hear what someone else's issues are, because you're kind of too busy with your own. And think, Harry, you're a gay ethnic minority, 2 degrees, no work in Florida. Yeah, freaking life's generally pretty sucky. Oh, luck. Yeah, luck is huge as well. Timing, there is a bunch of stuff you have no control over that can contribute to success. It is.
Can I just say something that does actually contribute to your level of success? And I say this full well knowing, being someone in the entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Be a fucking good, nice person.
Yes. Be a good person. That never hurts.
You may not be able to control luck. You may not be able to control, whether your door's going to be open for you. But I can tell you that if you are a fucking nice person, that door actually might find its way open for you anyway.
Yeah. Chog, that is an important point. So much talent that no one will ever realize. And that's not just in, like, performance areas. I think it was Stephen Jay Gould an American scientist. He's just going like, we're talking about, the great men of science, because people do tend to talk about great men of science, even though they're great women of science. He had a quote. It was along the lines of, "I'm really wary of talking about individual genius and brilliance and how awesome these famous scientists are." And he's talking about himself basically. He says, "Because I know that there were people every bit as smart who had every bit as much potential that no one ever heard of, and they died doing minimum wage jobs or being unemployed. They died on the streets, and they did not have the various elements of privilege that gave them the opportunities that people you do know did actually have." But Harry, be positive, man. Bright future. You positivity is important. Can be hard to maintain positivity. Yes, and I did see that. As soon as we started talking about Nepo babies, I did see the article this week, Gwyneth Paltrow bitching about it, and it's just like, but you had these contacts and this privilege. And again, it's not saying she didn't work for it. It's not saying she is without talent and whatnot. But pretending that the contacts and the privilege you grew up with didn't drive a huge amount of success is ridiculous. And yeah, Justin, when you're living your own life, you don't necessarily understand how badly things are against you at various points. But gotta keep going. So Chog's saying tongue in cheek, disproportionate amount of fucked up before. Chog, I will actually, again, slightly lighthearted, slightly jokingly, I'll reply. I do not believe awful people are overrepresented in the entertainment. Just working in the business world for the last 30 years, corporate world has at least as much fucking awful people as entertainment. It's just, I don't know, I guess entertainment's more flamboyant, so you get more stories in the media about people behaving like pieces of shit in the entertainment industry. People being jerks in corporate worlds, just not as interesting. But I honestly do believe just jerk-offs are at least as common in corporate world as they are in the arts. It's just, I guess they're just more noticeable when they're in the arts. And yep. All right, Harry. Neurodivergent and a 6'3" giant. Yeah, ADHD, autism. It's literally any sort of neurodivergence, any sort of physical divergence, gender divergence. And like literally, as a cis-het white male, broadly able-bodied, no significant mental health challenges, I'm aware that if you change any of those settings, life gets more difficult. Doesn't mean you don't work for any success you get, but anyone who is in the same camp as me, who doesn't acknowledge the benefits that are inherent with that, I just think they're not very good at self-reflection.
But it's also really important, Andrew, to remember the fact that, like, I mean, I'm autistic, and I've just created a film that is about autism, and I've had to cast an autistic actor. I say I have. I mean, I was going to anyway.
You chose to, yeah.
I chose to, exactly, and it was important. There's no way that you can't look at a life like this and go, "Oh well, I'm just going to cast an able-bodied actor." It just wouldn't work.
Yeah.
But our crew needed to understand how to work with this particular person, and the great thing out of that is that they got to work with somebody that they don't normally get to work with, in the fact that like, that sounds kind of weirdly that sounds super weird to say, but like, like the more that we train crews up to learn how to deal and understand and work with people, the bigger sense of that, because you know I don't want to have a situation where as creators we're having to think about it in the same way of someone like Sia is thinking of it when you think about her film music. The
Yeah.
idea that she can cast somebody like Maddie Ziegler because she fired the autistic actor because they found it really hard to be on set. And it's like, well, that's not right, because you're essentially have just mutually said that this person doesn't give you the time because you have not created a set that is valuable for their own self worth and for their own way of being themselves on set. And I think that's the thing is, and I think we need to talk to more creators and
Mm.
things like that around how do we envision and how do we create great sets for people who have otherwise been told that set life is incredibly stressful and
Mm.
incredibly hard to work at. And
Yeah.
I think we need to think about that a little bit more.
Yeah, and that's a good goal. And you will also, I'm sure you experience it. You get industry people who's going, "Well, it's just fucking hard work, you know. God, you little snowflake. Why have we got to change something just to suit you?" And it's like, I think it's ultimately to everyone's benefit if there's more diversity at every level. And I'm not just talking about the arts again here. I'll go back to corporate world. If there's more diversity in a workplace, just in the rank and file, in middle management, in senior management, I think it's to the economic benefit of people involved, because the more points of view that are represented, the less likely you are to make terrible mistakes. Because if you get a room where it's just sort of collective, think everyone in the room's thinking the same, everyone in the room has the same experiences, it's a room of yes men or whatever, you're going to make terrible mistakes. Um, so, Justin, I also get that was a big thing that you said a little while back. If you reflect on your own life and think it's technically abused, can you do anything about it? It's, one of the ongoing challenges of life is realizing sort of things about past and sometimes the present, and you don't always have power over it. It's not always empowering to think of it, but yeah.
But I think in itself, you can actually have that level of you know, how can you utilize that for your own creative benefit?
Yeah, it's it's so complex. Like I've always found this, like in relationships, like if you're with someone and you're in love with them, care about them, and this doesn't have to be romantic. This could be friends, and you find out they've had some really bad experience, like a real trauma, and on the one level, I think it's normal to find yourself sort of going, wow, I wish I could go back in time and stop that from happening to you. But they wouldn't actually be the same person without that, and everything. It's just we can't change certain things. Uh, it's natural to think about what would I do if I could change particular things, but we can't. And again, you look at the horrors of history, we all only exist because something truly horrific happened to someone tens, hundreds, thousands of years ago. The various, war, murder, rape, pillage that happened all across the world resulted in us and who we are today. And I don't think any rational person wishes horror on their ancestors or wishes that their ancestors did horrible things. but we are all only here because of the good things that happened in the past, but also because of the truly horrible things that happened in the past. That it would
Yeah.
just be different. That's my philosophy for the evening. Ooh, shit's fucked up, yo, but here we are. And that's what it comes down to. So, yeah, Harry, maybe don't go to LA. LA is crazy making. It's kind of it's who knows? I don't know. Like we all want particular things, and there's like one of the really old saying, "Careful what you wish for, you might get it." And the number of people who have been wrecked by achieving the thing they always wanted to be, it's something, yeah, just fundamentally flawed in our society that people can be destroyed by getting the thing they always wanted to get. I think there's I'm not sure where the saying comes from, if it's Shakespeare or if it goes back to, it maybe goes back to ancient Greek times. And it's something like, when the gods want to destroy someone, the first thing they do is give them what they want. And it is a thing. It's just like the human condition. We're striving towards a particular thing, but it's really unsettling that how often getting what we want will fuck us up. There's no justice in that. And Pat, how are you doing, by the way? Big Pat 007. And no, Safa, I did not feel the earthquake. I did see reports of it. I didn't feel anything. It's a little while since there's been a few tremors in the last year I haven't felt. There was one, I forget how long ago it was, because COVID has completely destroyed my sense of time, and I no longer remember if things happened last week or last year or 10 years ago. It's all very confusing. But there was one tremor, and I was working from home, and I'm out there thinking, and there was like a rumbling, and I thought, no, this one I'm thinking of, Safa, was way more than 6 months ago. And I thought a big truck was going past outside because it was that sort of rumbling, but it just kept going, and it started to get more intense. And that was when, as before I set up this room, where I had the bar carts out in the kitchen, which were near where I was working. So all the bottles were rattling against one another, and the house fire, and the penny drops. This is an earth tremor, and it had been going on for about a minute, and it was building up, and I was going, okay, it's just about the point I'm going to freak out. I think you meant to sit in the door frame if something like this happens. And I think I was within a couple of seconds of going, I think we're in trouble, and it stopped. And again, on the scale of these things, it was really minor, but it really did it. Yes, Chog, colonization, very evil, and the benefits. Well, again, and this is kind of what I was saying with we only exist because of horrible things that happen to people in history. That's not justifying the wars, the slaughter, the famine, just the horrific shit that happened over the centuries. But we only exist because horrible things happened to other people. I know, Strictly Sega, that username is a bit of a giveaway, isn't it? But yeah, it's a whole thing. Human existence is complicated. There are no simple answers, except when there are. But you gotta. I think. Sorry, I'm bringing out all the classical philosophers. I think it was a Voltaire quote. Someone who said, "There's all generalizations are dangerous, including this one. Because it's very hard when you're trying to, it's like there are no absolute truths except when there are. Heine, big question. Who's Finchy?
Oh,
Kyle's a YouTube bud, someone I've known for years through YouTube.
what a shame I don't YouTube anymore. I feel like I bring this up so whenever somebody asks me like, how do we know each other? I always feel like I'd be like, I really wanted to YouTube, but the community did not want me to YouTube.
Yeah, well, it's a whole thing, but I'm just kind of happy for all the people I did meet. And
Actually, there is someone in this community who you absolutely fucking know that treated me so terribly, and I can't look at their face to this day because all I just think is that particular person is very, very crazy. You know exactly who I'm talking about because they were incredibly big at a very certain convention in Sydney. But I was like, wow, this person is a complete asshole to me. Was an asshole to my face the whole time.
Yeah. Well, I got fucked over by a number of people over the years, which honestly ended up making me a bit cynical because for the longest time, I was repeatedly putting myself out for other people to try and do community things and getting worse than nothing in return, like losing time and money for people who didn't give a fuck, and then just getting fucked over by people. And it's just like, so I literally just developed the no, done, fuck you. So it's kind of almost invariably, if I've disassociated from someone, it's like there was a reason. And other people from the outside, if I told them the reason, might go, that doesn't seem like a reason. And I went, well, you weren't there. And sometimes it's because they decided they wanted nothing to do with me. Absolutely legit. So, oh, there you go. Justin
I really thought
calling you cute, Kyle.
Yeah. I mean, not because it's terrible, but it's just like, yeah. The good old days.
Yeah. But yeah, sometimes I've kind of known people were awful and I let it go for a while. And then they did something really awful. And it's like, yeah, I can't be around them. Sometimes I was caught by surprise. And sometimes it's because, you'll know I'm not backward in coming forward. I'm not shy about expressing views. And if someone has done something fucked, I'll usually get angry about it. And this has happened more than once. People going, oh, why are you being like that? I was going, because that's not acceptable. Fuck that person. So it's kind of like people sharing absolute lies from a right-wing hate site. And it's not things I disagree with. It's actual definite lies. And it's from like a right-wing hate site, whether it's, a men's rights thing or a homophobic site or a fucking racist site. And they go, oh, but this says, and I was like, well, what the fuck's wrong with you? Why are you sharing that? But I know this guy. Yeah, you know what? You know someone who's a piece of fucking shit. Fuck that. And people are going, oh, why are you getting so worked up? I was going, because this person is spreading hateful lies and they need to be told to shut the fuck up.
Are you talking about your love
affair? Why do you have to call the scene? And I go, because fuck this.
Are you talking about your love affair with Bearing?
No, that's okay. He was never credible. He's just a sad right-wing dickhead. There was a thing years back. It was like a little cottage industry of right-wing dicklords who wanted to make a name for themselves. At some point, they had to do videos attacking me. And it's like, fine, whatever. Like, I basically never responded. No, I'm talking about people. When I was saying that, I was talking about people in the YouTube community.
Oh,
Barry's
right.
not in the YouTube community. He's a right-wing cunt who used YouTube to be a right-wing cunt. He is not, never was YouTube community. I'm talking about people who you would definitely call YouTube community, but shared fucked up shit. And I got angry and was like, why the fuck are you doing this? And people saying, why are you being so angry? And I was like, well, because fuck that. What the fuck is this?
I wonder if I know who you're talking about. Have I met this
Oh,
particular person?
actually, you don't, because it was just a very minor thing with someone who's not very well known. But my temper gets the best of me sometimes, and I get a bit carried away. Hasn't happened for a little while, but there were certainly things where I just fucking lost it at people, and it was just like, just what? Why are you doing this? Why would you do this? Don't do this. Be better than this. And just yeah, it's like if someone's sharing something from a men's rights page or a fucking bigoted anti-minority page, and it's just like, no, I'm just not going to do it. Yeah, and then just randomly, sometimes, I've done stuff with people who just really fucked me over, or they've just done something that's made it impossible to maintain a connection with them. It's just like, no, sorry, I've learned. You're just being this fucked up. I can't deal with it. I don't need it. It doesn't make my life good. And there.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's such a shame that like a lot of this sort of stuff happened during that like 2013 era of like when like Game On and kind of VidCon and stuff like that were happening, because it's just like we all could have like come out to be like really successful YouTubers, but it was just weird. Like,
yeah,
I hated going to those things because I felt like, as much as I wanted to, I just felt like I was, people didn't understand me. You felt incredibly ostracized.
Yeah. And yeah, I got, and a lot of those things I experienced somewhere on the spectrum of being ignored through to being actively attacked. It was just kind of like, I'm not altogether sure what I did to deserve that, but it happened. Oh, sorry. So I think strictly say, yeah, the No campaign. Well, again, the public face of the No campaign was racist lies. It's that straightforward. Not that everyone who voted no is an overt racist. Some of them were just lazy and conservative and scared of change and a bit obnoxious. But the public face of the No campaign was non-stop racism. It was just fucked. But yeah, and the lies and the weird paranoia. And again, it was very hard to tell when the people who were spreading the weird paranoid shit for the No campaign. It was very hard to tell when they were opportunistic, lying, bigoted scumbags, and when they were genuinely unhinged, detached from reality, bigoted scumbags. The people who were literally going, you know what it's going? It's for communism. If this yes vote gets up, it'll lead straight to communism. And I'm like, what's wrong with you, buddy? What's that all about? But I don't know, it just shows how inherently conservative Australia is. People are resistant to change. People can be swayed by fear very easily, very easily. And it's just a thing, not liking change.
No, 100%. Although I will think that the Yes campaign didn't do themselves any favors by, like not doing any real events outside of the Sydney city area. But also, like, people should have just Googled and realized that, like, it wasn't something to be afraid of.
Yeah, it's Actually, it's not even in retrospect. It was at the time of the campaign. People were continually pointing out the Yes campaign was kind of fucked and they weren't reaching people. And then quite late, you got that video like Briggs did that went quite viral, and it was the just Google it thing. And it shouldn't have been up to him to, but it was fucked. The one thing that I got annoyed by, you get some relatively prominent people doing the Yes campaign saying there's no such thing as a progressive no vote. And it's like, fuck off, okay? There actually is not just a progressive, a radical position to reject the voice because it's not enough. It's just patting white people on the head and saying you did good, and they should be going for nothing short of treaty and legal recognition. I don't agree with that perspective, but to say that perspective doesn't exist is stupid. And I saw that a lot, and that was really annoying because you could point to that and go, well, that's factually wrong. You're saying a thing that's factually wrong. And it's like, Jesus Christ. Yes, strictly saying it was. There's gross racism and just general conservatism.
It was not easy. Not easy in the slightest.
It's very hard to be sure about that, Chog, the mandatory voting. I don't know, because well, I mean, that honestly, that's a hypothetical. We can never know if because there was certainly a core of the no voters who were incredibly motivated because they're incredibly fucking racist. So I don't know. Harry, that's our primary racism in Australia, but we don't limit ourselves to that. We have lots of racism to spread around to migrants and refugees and whatnot. The oppression of the Indigenous people, that's our number one racism. We're super good at it. We have a lot of practice. But, you know, I just like to go, we're actually a multi-talented group of racists who can be racist against far more than one group of people. So yes, I believe that was the case, Justin. And again, that by extension doesn't mean stupid people voted no. I don't know. It's hard to know if anything could have been done to change that outcome. So Harry grew up in Louisiana, so you get what I'm saying. Yeah, you just got to multitask with your racism, basically, and your general bigotry. Well, yes. The people who deny racism, they're somewhere on a spectrum of naive to actual really deeply racist and in denial. Or, in fact, you will repeatedly see the absolute worst, most vile racists, Pauline Hanson, repeatedly just assert out loud that they're not racist. And it's going, why are you even saying that? It's obvious. It's your core message. It's your core being, racism and bigotry. Why are you wasting time saying you're not racist? It's just weird that you think that denial means anything. You know, there's been a cricket just outside my window the whole time, making just this low-level buzzing, which has just made me think my tinnitus was acting up because it's not really loud. Like I don't think my microphone's picking it up. Every now and then there's a loud cricket, but there's just been this low level noise that's like messing with my head because it's low enough that half the time I think it's my imagination, but I know it's not. It's there. I mean, Justin, that's not a terrible idea. Honest teaching of the colonization of Australia, same way that Germans teach about Nazis. Yeah, that's not bad. But yeah, I worry a lot about what I see in the United States with the denialism. Like, don't say anything that makes white people uncomfortable. It's very weird.
It is extremely strange.
Yeah, we live in a very strange word. Safa, the Constitution should be taught in high school. I don't see a huge amount of value in that myself. An honest teaching of history would be good. Like the number of people who don't understand that there were massacres of Indigenous people into the 20th century, that don't know the frontier wars continued into the 20th century. They don't know that the stolen generations affected people who are younger than me. A fun one that always gets me, that a lot of people don't know, because you get people saying stupid shit, like when people saying, yeah, Australia Day shouldn't be on the day it is because it's like a celebration of invasion and there was just horrible things that came out of that. It should, if you want it, it should be a different day. No, we've got to protect Australia. Australia Day has only been Australia Day since the 90s, since the 1990s. And it's like, it's not a tradition, okay? It's over the 20th century, Australia Day was celebrated on a whole bunch of different dates in different states. It was John Howard in the 90s who declared all of Australia as to have Australia Day on January 26th. So the tradition angle is bullshit. Like the number of people who get all toey about the idea of the date changing, and you say it's only been the date since the 90s, and they'll just look at you blankly like, no, it's always been Australia. No, it's only been the decreed date of the national holiday since the 1990s. Okay, that's all there is to it. Ooh, Harry, that's actually a fun / horrible bit of history. Black Wall Street. That is the Tulsa Massacre, which is freaky, and that happened in the 20th century. This community was when segregation was still a thing. There was this particular community of black people in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who were doing exceptionally well. Like they were generally really wealthy, and it was colloquially known as Black Wall Street. And they were fucking wiped out by jealous white people. Absolutely over the top. And a lot of people only found out about that when that Watchmen streaming series was on, because a lot of the storyline of Watchmen was kicked off by the Tulsa Massacre. And
That's right.
I had actually heard of it. I wasn't like a huge history expert, but I'd heard of it. So when that came on in Watchmen, I was going, oh, they're using the Tulsa Massacre in this. Okay. But it was very interesting, the number of people who were going, okay, so I was watching Watchmen and that bit was really full on. And then I went and looked it up and it was fucking real. What? It was real? That was a thing that really happened? Oh my God. It was wild.
Well, with that said, Andrew, I'm going to probably pump off so I can just.
Well, so am I very soon.
Oh.
So thank you for coming on and saying hi, Kyle. It's always good to see you.
I hopefully will be down in Melbourne very soon. So let's try and find a time to, maybe I'll
All
come
right,
onto your
hit
stream.
me up. Hit me up.
Hit you up. All right. Well, I'll talk to you later then.
All right,
Bye,
catch you later,
everybody.
man. Cheers. So yes, and that's the other thing. What actually happened on January 26th is it's ridiculous. It's just like, you know what? What we should do is become a fucking republic and have that be set on another day somewhere and make that Australia Day. If you really feel the urge to be jingoistic, have it for being, something else. It's slightly different to the Australia Day one. I'm fascinated when you see the thing like there's Columbus Day, which particularly conservatives in America like, but a bunch of other people have declared, it's like Indigenous Peoples Day. And I love the defense of conservatives when you say like Christopher Columbus was a piece of shit, started genocides, was a slaver and a child rapist. And they go, well, you can't judge someone back then by today's standards. You have to think of what it was like back then. Back then, Christopher Columbus's behavior was so bad, he didn't just lose the sponsorship of the Spanish royals. They were going to prosecute him for just the extremity of his actions. Like, he was regarded as a piece of shit in his own day. Yes, Chog, Australia Day should be May 8. Mate. You've considered moving. New Zealand's lovely, actually. There's a reason a bunch of billionaires have their apocalypse bunkers, and they do. There's a bunch of billionaires who have apocalypse bunkers in New Zealand because there are a number of things about the climate, resources, and ecology of New Zealand that suggest if the rest of the world went to shit, you might be able to survive on New Zealand. And the fact that it's an island is a big part of it. But lots of fresh water from the snow on the mountains melting. A bunch of dumb ground-dwelling creatures that have been introduced. So, New Zealand has a lot going for it, quite honestly. I don't really know the culture. They, compared to a lot of the world, seem to embrace the history with their Indigenous people more. Okay. All right. That's just Mrs. Angry updating me. So I'm going to sign off and thank all you lovely people for joining this evening. A little bit early, but I'm just going to sign off and hopefully see you again another time. Maybe Tuesday night. Maybe I'll be doing takeaway with the Offspring. Who knows? Sometime during the week, I'll do a stream again. We'll see what happens when it happens. We have reached that stage of eating the cherry, of course, which I have been keeping handy. So, yum. Fare thee well, one and all. Hope to catch you again another time, but I'll say